Welcome. This is First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. We had a game that kept us up late, but boy, did that entertain everyone. I can tell you everything we have over the course of the next 3 hours, but it all pretty much comes down to a little Monday Night Football. Let's get right to it. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in L.A. taking on the Rams in the game that actually lived up to its much-anticipated hype in a big way. We picked this up in the fourth. Rams up 40-30. Mahomes hits Tyreek Hill for the 73-yard touchdown pass. Tyreek's second of the day. Chiefs within 3. Chiefs would score a defensive touchdown, but the Rams would retake the lead with that Jared Goff to Gerald Everett TD, 47-44, less than 3 minutes to go. Mahomes finds Chris Conley. That gave KC the lead, but Goff would respond again. Gerald Everett, again, 40 yards. Rams lead 54-51. Mahomes trying for the comeback, looking, escapes, throws, and it is intercepted by LaMarcus Joyner, one of his 5 turnovers on the night for Mahomes. The Rams escape with the win. 54-51 was your final. 105 points, over 1,000 yards of offense, and the Rams are now 10-1. Here's their quarterback, Jared Goff, on their big win.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, and it seemed like at the end, whoever had the ball last was going to win. That's what it felt like, and ultimately our defense had 2 turnovers there at the end that proved to be the winning turnovers, and it was back and forth the whole game. It was times where we felt like we had all the momentum. We thought we were going to put the knife in them and finish it, and then there was times where it was the other way around, where we're like, all right, we need to kind of claw back into this, and it was a fun one.
It's the same as when we played New England. I mean, it's just you can't make mistakes against great teams, and when you play these games, I mean, these are the games that you're going to play hopefully in the playoffs, and so you want to make sure that you limit your mistakes, but still at the same time be aggressive and still score points.
It was a whirlwind. I feel like I might need a couple beverages to relax tonight, but it was great. I mean, this is what you love so much about this game, and really, what's the best part about it is that locker room, sharing that with the people that you love. The players, the coaches, this organization. But it was a great matchup. But it was just one game, and there's a lot of football left. We got to do a great job making sure that we respond. We get ourselves healthy as possible, and we're refreshed and ready to go when we play the Lions coming back from the bye.
Such a good way to keep them all humbled. It felt like a playoff game, but to remind those guys that it was just one game and there's still more season to play. See, how impressive was last night's offensive explosion?
It was very impressive, and especially coming into the game, we have to realize that this game was originally scheduled to be in Mexico City. I'm sure the people in Mexico City wish they would have gotten the same type of game, but because of the field conditions and given the extreme conditions, the forest fires in California, those guys, staff members of the Rams, they weren't in their homes. Jared Goff had to be evacuated from his home, and they only got back in the town a couple days before this game. So you would think that there would be a lot of distractions and the quality of football would not be there. That was one of the things I was most impressive about. I don't think it affected the defenses. I think the offensive, the play calling, and the talent that's on those offenses, that's the way they would have played regardless. But I was impressed of how they moved the ball around. There was no one of the running backs, wide receivers, that they played a more prominent role, especially late in the game. You didn't know who was going to get the football. Yep. Typically in a game like this, you know where the ball's going to go, you know what's going to happen. And this was one, I mean, NFL, Big 12, welcome to the NFL, because it was exactly, you could not, turn this game off. And last possession, eventually we thought that was going to be the winner, Nick.
It felt like multiple times. The Chiefs scored to go up with less than 3 minutes remaining, and I think the response was, oh, you left the Rams too much time. Yeah. And then the Rams scored less than 2 minutes remaining. It's like, oh, you left the Chiefs too much time. And even after Mahomes threw the interception where Abukum hit him on the arm, they got the ball back, and you still thought the Chiefs might have enough time. There's never been a football game like last night. 99 years in the NFL, there had never been a team in league history score 50 and lose. And both teams had an opportunity to enter that category with the Chiefs having the ball late. To me, last night was an example of, in a league with some of the best athletes in the world, some of the best athletes in that league, and some of the best minds in that league on full display. There is no one in the NFL quite like Aaron Donald, and he put his imprint on that football game. There's no one in the NFL quite like Tyreek Hill. And while C's absolutely right, they spread it around everywhere, the skill position guy that had the biggest impact was Tyreek Hill with his 10 catches for 215. There's almost no one in the league other than maybe Aaron Rodgers that can make the types of throws, good and bad, that Patrick Mahomes can. And there's no minds in the league quite like Sean McVeigh and Andy Reid, at least to me. Sean McVeigh and his ability to we lost Cooper Kupp. Todd Gurley's dinged up. Brandon Cooks is in and out. We will find different guys that can hurt you, and to turn Jared Goff into this level of player, and Andy Reid's embrace of college concepts. The screen pass touchdown to Kareem Hunt had three guys running in other directions. So as Bart Scott would say, disrupt the defense's eye discipline. And he ends up having a walk-in 30-yard touchdown. It was some of the best minds and some of the best athletes we have in the NFL. And it's how we got what to me was an all-time classic regular season game.
I love that you brought that up because you look at a game, if you looked at the finals, 54-51, you thought, oh, this was just all defense. But it was all offense, rather, excuse me. But it was great defense. It was great coaching. There was great scheming. I think if you take the score aside, you had a lot of everything by both teams poured into this game.
Absolutely. With the rules, you're going to stress out these defenses. No one has 5 or 6 defensive backs that they can put on these wide receivers. Offenses have a huge advantage, but it was about the expertise of the passing game. How were these defenses going to come up with either turnovers? Because that's the thing now in the league. You got to be able to create turnovers and play good red zone defense. And that's what you saw in this game. Teams trying to hold on, trying to force them to have field goals, but ultimately turning the football over. I don't care how good your offense is. You turn the football over, it's going to hurt you. You lose the turnover battle, it's almost impossible to win if you lose it by more than one. So that was, as much as we've changed the rules, it's still old-style football. You got to take care of the football, and I think that's what Kansas City, that's the lesson they should take from this game.
Well, and see, you mentioned that teams aren't going to have 5 or 6 quality defensive backs. That's the other thing that jumped out to me in this game. A few years ago, after the new collective bargaining agreement came into place, we started talking about how there aren't enough quality offensive linemen to go around, that they don't have enough time to learn it from the college game to the pro game. It feels to me like we are, because of the new rules, because of the emphasis on almost freedom of movement of receivers, because of the way they have almost juked the stats to help quarterbacks and receivers, there aren't enough quality corners and safeties in the league, at least guys that are allowed to play the way guys played in the past. And so how can you make an impact defensively? It is more important than ever in this league to have somebody like Aaron Donald or Justin Houston or Dee Ford, guys. Obukam had the game of his life, guys that can make those flash plays, because you're not going to have a bunch of 3-and-outs. Teams are going to accumulate yards on you, and can you have one special front 7 player that can either take the ball away or, as we've talked about in the past, get a sack, which is worth about half a turnover as far as what the other team's going to do.
Well, you know, going into this game, the game plan for Sean McVeigh, they were going to attack Orlando Scandrich, the cornerback for Kansas City. Now, he had a chance at 2 minutes, 15 seconds to be able to put this game away. He had an interception. They were in 2-man. He read it right. They had a sideline pattern on. He reads it right. He drops this interception. This right here, regardless of all the offensive plays, that was the biggest play in the game. Yep. An opportunity, Kansas City being ahead, an opportunity for him to be able to take the ball away from them to be able to seal the win. So, yes, a lot of offensive players. Yes, the stats really lean towards the quarterback and everything, but as a defensive player, we saw both of these teams on the outside. You get a chance a number of times to be able to make plays in the game, and you got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities.
You know, I looked at the box score afterwards just to see what Gurley and Kareem Hunt did, just because of the seasons they've been having. And they had quiet nights. No touchdowns, 100 yards, under 100 yards. Were you surprised that they weren't featured in as much? Or because it was such high-flying offense, they were just going to throw the ball?
Well, I thought there was a couple things. One is, I know for some reason they didn't mention it on the broadcast, but it appeared to me Todd Gurley got dinged early. But about 7.5 minutes into the first quarter, he got rolled up on the sideline. He spent some time, according to the postgame reports, in the medical tent, and he didn't touch the ball again for about 8 minutes of game action. So I think that affected it. But the other thing that I think it was, when teams are passing like this, when you're getting 10 yards every time you drop back to pass, even if you're running for 6 yards a carry, like, passing is the more efficient option. The Chiefs had a healthy running back, but they were the team that was trailing for the majority of the game. So I thought both teams maybe could have relied on the running game more, but it's hard to say either team didn't play offense the exact way they wanted to.
Yeah, I thought Gurley a couple times earlier in the game, he had a couple tough little falls there. One where the guy fell on the back of his legs. But from what they were doing, this was the game plan. So unless Sean McVeigh tells me that, oh, Todd Gurley got hurt, to me, it was the game plan. We're going to run play action because it gave them the best pass protection, and it sucked up those linebackers so they can run those combination routes. 2, 3 receivers, max protection, because the protection. So Todd Gurley was supposed to be a big part of the game, but a lot of it was going to be as a decoy and running that outside zone and then using the play action off of it, because that protection is one of the most secure protections for Goff to be able to read the ball and read the field. And he can take more time when they have that type of protection.
Hey, we thought this was going to be a great game. It turned out to be a great game, and I think the fans won, even though the Rams walked away with the win here. Coming up, can the Patriots now keep pace in this new high-octane NFL? That's next on First Things First. We'll get to Tom Brady in a second. A couple of plays from last night that caught our eye. Jared Goff throwing a perfect pass to Gerald Everett, showing off his fancy footwork for the game-winning touchdown. It's
a hell of a job by Everett to stay in bounds, and for Goff to recover after a big mistake.
Nick, who was that out there covering him?
Who was that? Oh, Daniel Sorensen, who's been injured. The guy you killed last year because they tried to have him replace Eric Berry.
Every time. I tell him, Andy Reid, you can't hide him. Every time that he gets on the field, we're going to find him.
Yeah. More from this game.
He sticks out on the Chiefs.
Big night for Samson Ebukam with the interception. Will not be denied from finding the end zone.
Tremendous play. This was one of several. This one will be highlighted. But at the end of the game, when Mahomes throws the last interception, he can't get outside. He's very, very disciplined. He stays on Mahomes' upfield shoulder, forces that last turnover to be able to seal the game.
Ebukam was absolutely outstanding. And this one, to bat it, it hits the right tackle's helmet, and to come down with it, that's a great play. A great play.
All right, moving on, a little basketball. The NBA, De'Aaron Fox, watch, spin off the defender, drops a dime to Marvin Bagley for the layup. Woo!
Aaron Fox is exciting. His second year from Kentucky. Maybe a little disappointment in his first year, but, man, he's found his groove in year number 2, and Sacramento's playing better.
Kings 8-8. Everyone thought that #1 pick that they got to give up to Boston this year is going to be top 3. Kings trying to make a little playoff push with De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. Willie Cauley-Stein playing the best ball of his career. Go get it, young Houston.
All right, finally, a little Duke basketball. Zion gets the steal, delivers the vicious dunk.
Just a nonchalant windmill.
So it was a Monday.
Just a little nonchalant windmill in Maui Sea.
Oh, we're going to see a lot of this, man. This kid is amazing what he can do. But also, man, they got another kid, P.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett, better player. Better player. We're going to keep on the highlights, but they got another freshman that's a better basketball player.
We'll see.
Don't say nothing.
We'll see on that. We'll see on that.
I didn't ask you. I'm telling you.
I'm telling
How many points he had last night?
Zion only had 13.
Okay, how many did the other guy have?
More than 13.
Oh, okay.
But that's one
Keep a track, people.
Moving on to the Patriots.
RJ, PJ, I'll get your name right by the NBA.
RJ. They had this past week off, currently sitting atop the AFC East at 7-3. Not that that's hard to do, but that's for another day. They'll take on the Jets this week as they look to make their push to return to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight season. Tom Brady says everything they want to accomplish is right in front of them.
We're working through certain things, and we're 7-3. We got our biggest games ahead of us. I don't think that we played our best football. So this is the time of year where we've got a great opportunity ahead of us. We put ourselves in a decent position. It's not perfect by any means. I don't think we've played perfectly. But I think we built to this point where we're in a position to, start playing our best.
So I actually listened to this interview. He actually went on to say that he spent the bye week watching all the games all the games that they've played already up until this point. So he was fully dialed into what they were and weren't doing. So, Nick, after you saw what you saw from both teams offensively last night in the Rams and the Chiefs, can the Patriots keep pace with that type of offense, do you think?
Not the Patriots we've seen through 10 weeks. Like, now, the Patriots won't turn the ball over the way both teams did yesterday. They won't commit a dozen first-half penalties or close to it the way the Chiefs did yesterday. They're not going to beat themselves. But you looked at just the overwhelming offensive talent. Take the quarterbacks out of it. And Brady last month hadn't been great, but take him out of it. Let's assume Brady come the playoffs is going to be awesome. With a lesser Gronk, with Josh Gordon that still is not yet seemingly fully on the same page with Brady, you look at what the Saints have, what the Rams have, what the Chiefs have, what the Steelers have even.
Yeah.
And you say, as far as a talent perspective, the Patriots are playing, Tom Brady's got a stacked deck against him. And so, I mean, I wouldn't count the Patriots out in any scenario because they're so good at the details. But as far as trying to win a shootout, I know they did against Kansas City earlier in the year. That was with Gronk a little healthier. That was with the team playing a little bit better. I don't think they can keep up with the top flight offenses in the league as we're seeing them right now.
Yeah, we always do this, and football is not a tale of the tape. When you look at the Pats, how they play, you watch the game last night, you'll be like, wow, how are they going to keep up? Well, this is how they're going to do it. The Pats have started 7-3. In the last 10 years, they've done that half the time. But they've only made it to the Super Bowl with a bye. So if they were to play one of these teams and they had a bye, you're not going to see Tyreek Hill have 200 yards. That's not going to happen to a Bill Belichick team. So, yeah, they might be able to score some points. They might be able to move the ball. But you're not going to have one guy be able to dominate the game. So, in seeing this, what would I say? It's not about the offense. Bill Belichick would do something about Kansas City and Tyreek Hill. Now, would Kelsey hurt him? Would a healthy Sammy Watkins be able to hurt him? They have so many talented players on both sides. The way the Rams played, Patriots couldn't do anything with that. If Jared Goff played that way in the Super Bowl, man, the Patriots, they wouldn't be able to stop him because there's not one thing that they would be able to take away from him, which Bill Belichick is going to try to do. The thing about it is, it's not a matter of who's the best right now. We know the Patriots are going to get better. It's predictable. They're always better as the season goes on. So now, in these last 6 games, will they go 5-1? Will they go 6-0 to be able to get either that number 2 seed or that number 1 seed? That is the key to them. They will keep evolving, keep getting better. Let's see how the Rams, how they respond to this bye. All right, it's still a very, very young team. I do like how they responded after the loss to New Orleans, how they've come back, and how Sean McVeigh has replaced the overall productivity of Cooper Kupp. So those things, I think, are very, very positive going forward. But the Patriots, they will not be the same team in January that they are today. 7-3, they've done this a whole bunch, but they've only had that ultimate success when they get the bye. So that's what these last 6 games are about for the Patriots.
But it's also exactly what you said. The Patriots don't always beat teams because they have a better offense and a stingier defense. They beat teams because of their attention to detail, because of the way they prepare, because of what they anticipate, because of how they take away your strength and turn it into a weakness.
Some of the ways they beat the Chiefs in their matchup earlier this year, which is the other. Pat Mahomes made some mistakes, missed some passes early in that game, threw one bad red zone interception in that game. The Chiefs had to settle for 3 instead of 7, 3 separate times to start that football game. And so, absolutely, that's why, nobody should write the obituary on the New England Patriots until they're actually dead. But C's point on how important these last 6 games are cannot go overstated. If they go 5-1, they will almost assuredly get a bye again. And we know that 12 times in the Belichick-Brady era, they've gotten a bye. 8 of those times, they've gotten to the Super Bowl. We know that they've never gotten there without one. And so if they go 4-2, if they're 11-5 and they end up as the 3 seed, we don't have a template. And they don't have something to draw on as far as, oh, we've done it from here. So that is where the loss right before the bye was a tough one for them because they have less margin of error. But they got a big win last night. The team they're chasing for the 1 seed C, the team they have the tiebreaker with in Kansas City, now Kansas City's only essentially a half game up on them. But I do think it is the difference between being the 2 seed or the 1 seed and the 3 or the 4 this year in the AFC is going to be enormous for all 4 teams vying for it.
One thing that New England's going to have to face that speed, the speed on both sides, because they run speed sweep sideline to sideline. That is not something this New England team, I believe, can deal with. And also, if they had to face them, that's why I believe 2 weeks would give them the appropriate time to be able to minimize the difference in how fast and what the Rams and what the Chiefs present. Because it's like college football, not just the plays, how they utilize the speed on the offensive side.
But despite all of that, this Patriots team, does this not work unless Gronk is in and healthy and unless Gordon and Brady get on the same page? Or are you saying despite those things?
Oh, no, they need everyone healthy.
Yeah.
No, they need Gronk to be able to block, too, on that for that offensive line. The amount of pressure Kansas City and the Rams can put on you, you would need Gronk for that.
And I would say more importantly than Gordon getting on the same page is Sony Michel's health. I'd say Gronk and Sony Michel's health are the two most important things. Gordon getting locked in with Brady would be a bonus. I don't think they're baking that in, assuming that's going to happen by the end of the year.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, did last night's game hurt or help Pat Mahomes' MVP chances? That's next on First Things First. An NFL football Thanksgiving feast will be served up on Fox as bitter NFC rivals battle when Adrian Peterson and company land in Dallas to take on Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys. It all starts at 4 Eastern on Fox.
Game of the year in the NFC East on Thanksgiving.
All right, time now for us to go viral. Jared Goff finished with 413 yards, 5 total touchdowns in the Rams' 54-51 win over the Chiefs last night. But the nature boy Ric Flair on the sidelines to see one guy and one guy only.
Hey, it's the nature boy Ric Flair, live right here in LA to see my main man, Todd Gurley, and the Rams rock it right here tonight. The Chiefs go down. Woo! 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 Todd Gurley. Woo!
I'm going to tell you, he's a national treasure.
Yes.
But Ric Flair lost a lot of flair.
Oh.
I mean, his woo ain't what it used to be.
You
It to take a lot of air in to get a lot of air out.
Takes a little more for him to get to where he wanted to get to. I didn't know he was such a big Rams and Todd Gurley fan.
He's a big football fan, big, huge fan, SEC fan. You see him on the telecast and everything on Saturdays. Watching some adult tackle football.
Good stuff. Time for some stories to start your morning. Tyreek Hill had an excellent game last night. 10 catches, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. See, how impressive was Hill in this one?
I'm so impressed, but he had a lot of tough throws that for a guy with his speed, typically don't have the hands that he has, and his route run has improved so much. Andy Reid talks about him, raves about him being a football junkie. He's all about football, and you could see he's in the backfield, he's in the slot, and his ability to be able to retain that football allows them to be effective. He definitely is a #1 receiver. You can see the traits in him. A go-to guy, defeat the double team. Always a deep threat. So he's one of the most exciting players in the NFL.
And late in the game, the catch he made on the sideline, jumping where Sam Shields disrupts the ball, he secures it and taps 3 feet down to go along with. He's made these running backwards touchdown catches throughout the year where he's falling backwards. He's been spectacular.
On the other side of the ball, Aaron Donald might have had the game of the season. 2 sacks, forcing 2 fumbles, one which led to a score for the Rams. Nick, how dominant was Aaron Donald last night?
He's playing the D tackle position, the best anyone's played it since Warren Sapp. I mean, that is the level he's playing at. I was talking to Cris earlier before the show about Johnny Randall, one of his teammates, who was the standard of his generation at D tackle. I think he passed that off to Sapp, who we've waited a bit, but now it's Aaron Donald. He has been an absolute monster. 14.5 sacks this year for Aaron Donald.
In between Johnny Randall, Hall of Famer, Warren Sapp. Let's not forget about J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt, when he won that MVP, he moved up and down the line. But in defensive tackle, man, it's very, very rare that we've seen guys be able to take over the game. Shortest path to the quarterback is from that D tackle spot. It's a luxury to be able to have one as special as Aaron Donald is.
All right, moving on to LeBron James now, riding high off his tremendous win over Miami Sunday, where he dropped 51 points en route to a Laker win. So after beating his former team in Miami, he now heads to Cleveland to try to beat his other former team on Wednesday. In an article that came out yesterday, LeBron is quoted as saying he knew as soon as the Cavs traded Kyrie in the summer of 2017, that was the beginning of the end for everything. See, what was your reaction when you read what LeBron said?
I mean, not surprised. I mean, it had gotten out that LeBron, from the beginning, when Kyrie had requested the trade privately, that LeBron was like, don't trade him. Like, don't listen to him. Don't fall to his demand. So I wasn't surprised by that. There were a few other things along the way as far as them not getting other players and not being able to acquire other players that might have been able to salvage LeBron staying there. But ultimately, it was in the cards for him to leave. Not just because of basketball, but because of who owns the basketball team. And Dan Gilbert. Him and LeBron, not unless they added another superstar to replace Kyrie, would LeBron stay there. It didn't fit in his business model as far as what he wanted moving forward. So I'm not surprised, not shocked at all that LeBron, who owned 2 houses in Los Angeles, decided that he was going to go to the Lakers.
And this is all about Dan Gilbert. And this is this article that the Kyrie stuff, I don't think was breaking news to a lot of people. But the nugget in there that I thought was great reporting was that as Kyrie was about to be traded, that Ty Lue drove to see LeBron, who was doing an autograph signing in Santa Monica, actually, got LeBron on the phone with the new GM, Kobe Altman. LeBron expressed, do not trade him. We can fix this. He's got 2 years left on his deal. And according to 4 people that were privy to the conversation, Kobe told him, all right, we won't trade him. And within 15 minutes, Kyrie was traded. And that's when LeBron says on the record, that's how I knew that Kobe was not going to be David Griffin, who was actually in charge, the previous GM, that this was going to be Dan Gilbert's operation. And it was that moment I said all last year that barring a Cavs championship, there was no way they could retain him. LeBron, it should not be overstated, the level of betrayal I think he felt when he comes back to Cleveland, signs a 1-year deal, signs another 1-year deal. They win a championship. He signs a 2-year deal. And so the first offseason that LeBron does not have the leverage or the power, the owner, Dan Gilbert, who he never fully trusted, doesn't retain the GM and trades away the second-best player on the team. The 1 year LeBron couldn't exert his influence, Dan Gilbert said, I'm going to remake the team in my image. And the team is remade in his image now, being the worst team in basketball. Like, he got exactly what he wanted. I just don't know why he wanted it.
Well, quick question to that. They are the worst team. What, 2-13? Or is the Cavs record now? Does that make what LeBron did last year with this Cavs team that much more impressive, CC?
I mean, they were bad last year. I mean, I was critical of them the whole year. So I'm not, I knew they weren't all right. I knew the ownership wasn't going to be all right. So it was very impressive what he did last year. But ultimately, it's still about winning championships. They didn't have enough firepower.
Yeah.
Getting that team to the finals was an accomplishment for him. But for LeBron, it's about hoisting that trophy. And last year, they didn't have a chance.
And what this does illustrate, though, is the level of almost delusion of Dan Gilbert, who once LeBron left, signs Kevin Love to a long-term extension and tells anyone that's going to listen, we're going to be competitive this year. Even though if we're not one of the 10 worst teams in the league, we lose our draft pick. We don't care. We want to be competitive this year. They're trying to be competitive, and they're the worst team in basketball.
All right, keep trying. Back to Monday Night Football now. Patrick Mahomes had another electric performance in prime time. Mahomes threw for 6 touchdowns, nearly 500 yards, but turned the ball over 5 times, including 2 that led directly to Rams touchdowns. So the Chiefs fall to 9-2 with the loss. Here is Patrick Mahomes on his mindset during the game.
It's the same as when we played New England. I mean, it's just you can't make mistakes against great teams. And when you play these games, I mean, these are the games that you're going to play hopefully in the playoffs. And so you want to make sure that you limit your mistakes, but still at the same time be aggressive and still score points.
It's really great to see how level-headed he is this early on in his career. What did you learn about Mahomes last night, CC?
He's got to learn the NFL game. He's got to have better ball security. You cannot be that loose with the football in the pocket. There were a number of times where only one hand on the football, and I'm talking about guys within 1 arm's width, 2 arm's width. Like, you have to realize, like, there's a certain mentality that, yes, I'm going to try to make plays, but a lot of times if I throw the ball away, those are also good plays in the NFL. So every play does not present itself for the big play. So you have to be able to try to, how do I minimize my mistakes? Throwing the ball into coverage, which late in the game trying to force it, you could see that. and the ball security. He's got to be more careful with the football, especially when you're playing against inside tackles, Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald. You know they're going to be around the football. So there's no excuse in a game like this for the lack of ball security that he showed.
Aaron Donald made a couple great plays early that we see the best veteran quarterbacks in the league. They get sacked on those plays, but they hold on to the ball. I can't count how many times I've seen plays where Aaron Rodgers, with those giant, strong hands, it looks like it should be a fumble, and it wasn't. Those were enormous plays. Without those plays, the Chiefs win, I think, handily. And that is on Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to overreach.
Well, what happened to the Chiefs' defense now? Yeah, handedly, like they still got to play defense, though.
Right, but they got 21. I understand that, but they got 21 points off the Mahomes turnovers, 2 defensive touchdowns. In a game.
I didn't see a defense that could win any game handedly against an explosive offense. I can understand what you're trying to say. Oh, they scored turnovers, but that defense was having even if they had to go the length of the field, a shorter field did help them.
No doubt about it. But the point you made earlier is just the one I'm trying to emphasize, which is we know it's almost impossible in this league to win if you lose the turnover margin by multiple turnovers. It is impossible to win in this league if you have the other team score 2 defensive touchdowns. What got the Chiefs back in the game was 1 defensive score of their own. With that said, the reason I said I don't want to overreact is the Chiefs went into this game with the 2nd fewest turnovers of any team in football. Those were the 1st and 2nd lost fumbles of Pat Mahomes' entire career. I don't think this is a tendency for him, a trend for him. It was bad turnovers in the worst spots. But with all that said, as the play C pointed out earlier, if Scandrick makes that pick, we are talking about, similar to Ben Roethlisberger yesterday, the resilience of overcoming a few early turnovers, driving your team down the field for the win.
Now, Nick Wright might be talking about that, but Cris Carter's not talking about that because I knew those turnovers were critical. And in a game like this is why, and that's what Slav says, you learn more in losing than you do winning. Just as you said that. It's 2 minutes, 15 seconds ago. Scandrick, he drops that. If he catches that, we're all, man, what about the resilience? No. You still turn that ball over 4 times. Now, that fifth turnover didn't happen.
It was 3 up to there. It was 3 up to that point.
Okay, but it's still, you learn more in losing. And I believe if he was able to be critical, he would see. You said it. Other quarterbacks we've seen hit from the backside. They're able to hold on to the ball. So those things, I believe, are more important. If Scandrick makes the play, that's the reason why the defense is not a great defense. They don't make plays on the back end. So it is a problem, and I believe that you learn more in losing, and I hope that he's able to get that compared to if he had caught that interception.
What I thought was actually the critical turnover of the game wasn't one they scored a touchdown on. It was when the Rams, after they scored the touchdown to Everett, the Chiefs had the ball right around midfield, plenty of time, all their timeouts, and they're only down 3. They don't need a touchdown. A touchdown would be great, but they don't need one right then and there. Right. And they have plenty of time to be methodical with it. He went for the big play, and Abukum, who had a monster game throughout, hits him on the elbow. It leads to a wobbly pass. That was turnover number 4. And then a Hail Mary shot at the end of the game when he got rushed, when he got flushed out of the pocket. That was turnover number 5.
CC, explain ball security with a relatively young quarterback. Is that fundamentals? Is that his skill set? Is that because he's young? And how long is something like a process like that to overcome?
Well, this is game number 11. He started 1 game last year. There's no quarterback that's been in the league will be used to the intensity that you will be in the NFL game with the pressure around you. Only the repetition of the games. You can't, in practice, man, you can't get near the quarterback. You can't simulate this. You can't do these things. Now, there's a lot of drills that they do to secure the ball, and it's not as if he doesn't know ball security. It's just in the biggest moments, right, you have to be really special. Last year's Super Bowl number 52, the play that changed the game. Brady getting the ball knocked out of his hand. So if I'm going to use the same criteria in judging Tom Brady, who is the greatest quarterback, I'm going to use a guy that's starting his 12th game in Patty Mahomes. So when you have the football, you're touching the ball 60, 70 times a game. You have to have better ball security than anyone else on the team. And you have to know in a game like this, when they're bringing most of their pressure from inside, what do I have to do? And on those plays, even though the left guard got beat, even though the left tackle got beat, right guard got beat, he can help it by securing it and just get sacked. Just getting sacked in those plays are great football plays. And young football players, they have to learn that.
And we saw there was one play late in the game, and they pointed out on the broadcast, where he almost sacked himself once he felt the pocket collapsing. He dipped his head and started to go down, maybe because of those fumbles earlier in the game. This is something, though, Andy Reid has talked about, walking the fine line with Patrick Mahomes, because his natural inclination, and thus far up to this point in the season, it has worked out for him far more than it hasn't, is to go for the spectacular play, is to try to extend the play, see if one of these freak athletes he has can break open, and in an attempt to go for the spectacular play, it's not his inclination to think a sack can be a good play. It's not his natural inclination. And Andy Reid has talked about not wanting to change his mentality,
don't want to stymie that
but also wanting to make sure things like last night, where he had 7 turnovers on the year going into last night. He had 5 last night in a game the Chiefs could have won, trying to walk that fine line.
Yeah, it is a fine line, but you have to be able to take care of the football. And I would say that if I was worried about one thing with Kansas City, I wouldn't say it would be the ball security and things like that. I would say Kansas City and their inability to play clean football games from a penalty standpoint. Coming into this game, and it's not about the all-star crew that they had, it's about them having a poor technique, false starts. You can't just be a great football team and give people yardage the way the Kansas City. So I thought it was, last week we had a question, what are you worried about with Kansas City moving forward? The penalties. So lack of discipline, team discipline in a game like this. You're going to give a team like the Rams 100 yards? You're going to give them a whole football field?
Right.
As far as penalties, it will come back to hurt you. And for me, it wouldn't be the ball security of Patty Mahomes and moving forward. Those things are very, very important. The penalties, game in, game out, nothing to do with the crew last night. It hurt them last night, especially to start the game with the number. But they had 9 penalties before I could blink in the game.
All right. Let's take a break. Coming up, much more on this. Who deserves the most credit for the Rams' dominant offensive night? That's next on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, Coach Mangini. Eric Mangini joins the show. Hey, Coach.
How are you?
A lot to talk about today. Quite a game last night. You probably watched it.
There was a game last night?
That's exactly the answer I was looking for. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in L.A. taking on the Rams in the game that actually did live up to its hype in a big way. Let's pick this up in the fourth. Rams up 40-30. Mahomes hits Tyreek Hill for the 73-yard touchdown pass. Tyreek's second of the day. Chiefs within 3. Chiefs would score a defensive touchdown, but the Rams would retake the lead with the Jared Goff to Gerald Everett TD. 47-44 Rams, less than 3 minutes to go. Mahomes finds Chris Conley, and that gives KC the lead, but Goff would respond again. Gerald Everett again, 40 yards. Rams lead 54-51. Mahomes now trying to mount the comeback, escapes, looks, and throws the interception to LaMarcus Joyner. One of Mahomes' 5 turnovers on the night. Rams escape 54-51, your final. 105 points, over 1,000 yards of offense. The Rams now 10-1. Here's their quarterback, Jared Goff, on their big win.
Yeah, it was a crazy game. Crazy game, and it seemed like at the end, whoever had the ball last was going to win. That's what it felt like, and ultimately our defense had 2 turnovers there at the end that proved to be the winning turnovers, and it was back and forth the whole game. It was times where we felt like we had all the momentum. We thought we were gonna put the knife in them and finish it, and then there was times where it was the other way around. Where we're like, all right, we need to kind of claw back into this, and it was a fun one.
It's the same as when we played New England. I mean, it's just you can't make mistakes against great teams, and when you play these games, I mean, these are the games that you're going to play, hopefully, in the playoffs. And so you want to make sure that you limit your mistakes, but still at the same time be aggressive and still score points.
It was a whirlwind. I feel like, I might need a couple beverages to relax tonight, but it was great. I mean, this is what you love so much about this game, and really what's the best part about it is that locker room, sharing that with the people that you love. The players, the coaches, this organization. But it was a great matchup. But it was just one game, and there's a lot of football left. We got to do a great job making sure that we respond. We get ourselves healthy as possible, and we're refreshed and ready to go when we play the Lions coming back from the bye.
Coach, it's not often a game that we match up on paper turns into the game on the field. This was a doozy. How impressive was last night's offensive explosion in the Rams' big win?
Well, it was fun to watch, and it was fun to watch for a lot of reasons, and not just what we saw offensively, but also when you put the ball in the air that many times, what happens defensively, and you're putting those quarterbacks at risk over and over again, and you have the turnovers for points, the multiple turnovers for points. So I thought there was going to be a little bit more running in the game. I thought that they were going to incorporate some of that at some point during the course of the game. They sprinkled it in here and there, and I think at some point these teams, when they play games like this, are going to have to do that, because the best way to prevent the other team from scoring is to keep them off the field. And you've got two incredibly talented backs that became afterthoughts as the game went on, which I was most surprised about.
Coach, I thought this game was almost the test study, the case study for what football in 2018 can be. Like, with all the rule changes, with all of everything slanting towards the offense, and with the embrace of some college concepts, you're seeing teams that defensively, it's not about the yards you can prevent. It's not necessarily even about forcing 3 and outs. It's about, can you make splash plays? Can you, while the other team's going to move up and down the field, can you either stop them in the red zone, or can you score on defense or force turnovers on defense? I feel like, as a defensive-minded coach, if you were dropped in to this setting, even though it's not like you coached decades ago, it's just a few years ago, you would have to change some of the philosophies as far as what you emphasize.
You wouldn't have to change when the guy gets to the top of the route, don't grab him. Because that's what we've been teaching forever. Like, their techniques are poor. Yeah, we know that the rules and stuff, but their technique, that's just poor coaching. There's a lot of bad coaching, how you're going to stop a passing attack, too. So I think Coach, let me jump in there before, I think Coach would be like, I think I can coach the technique that would, it goes through any time. You know, it's not the rules. Like, I mean, they play a lot of bad technique that leads to these big numbers, too, Coach.
Yeah, there's multiple penalties on both sides of the ball. There were receivers that were cut free. There were guys falling down in the deep part of the field. So as much as there were these splash plays, there was a lot of room for improvement on the other side. And I don't think this is what we're going to see, these types of games over and over again. Maybe a few more, but it's not going to be the overwhelming trend.
Yeah, even the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was a high-scoring game, but there were some times in there where teams had to get some critical stops on 3rd down. And we could see both of these teams could rush the passer. So you know that how do you really affect these things? Rush the passer and play coverage. I thought Kansas City made a huge mistake in the game by they were playing 2-man. They were going to slow bleed, take away all the short routes and everything. The safeties take away the deep stuff down the field. They decide to get out of it after they convert the 1st down, and Scandrick drops the interception. They decide to go cover 1 man, and they put a guy who cannot cover on Everett on the outside, and Sean McVeigh and them dial it up. So you have to be able to play some type of defense. It's not the rules. It's about technique. Guys outside, you don't bump him. A guy's an athlete, let him run down the sideline, he's going to make a big play, and that ultimately was the winner for the Rams, Coach.
And I was surprised at the end of the game, or what I was looking for at the end of the game, and I know you're a big Mahomes fan, is I wanted to see him in one of those 2-minute drives be able to bring the team down and get him in position to tie the game or win the game, and that's what I was most disappointed from him, because everything that happened throughout the course of the game, and then to be able to get the ball back with that much time and not be able to put together a drive in either of those 2 opportunities was pretty disappointing.
The biggest mistake of the game in my mind, and it's not close, it wasn't either one of the Aaron Donald strips. It wasn't the pass on the RPO, that the amazing play by Abukum, who got the pass, tipped it off the lineman's helmet and scored. It was his 2nd interception. It was the one where they had 2 minutes, all their timeouts, they're at midfield down 3, and you don't need a huge play. You don't have to go deep down the field. You can do it 5-6 yards at a time, and you don't even just have to go to the sidelines. That play where his arm got hit, he was trying to take a deep shot, and it gets picked. Now, the Chiefs did get the ball back again after that, because Sean McVeigh was trying to go for the kill as opposed to just running the football, which I understand. That was the play that I think will stick with Pat Mahomes the longest. That was the play, because that was, and to me, an unforced error more than the other ones.
And I know you get frustrated with me because I'm not 100% on the Mahomes is going to the Hall of Fame bandwagon.
Last night when the game stopped, Coach texted me and said, I need to see more. I need to see more football. 5 turnovers, not enough.
He's now tied for, what, 3rd in the league in interceptions at this point. And the question is he going to be a make-something-happen guy? And Brett Favre was a make-something-happen guy and very successful at it. But at the end of the day, he's going to make something happen either for your team or for the other team. And if you can live with the volume of turnovers that come from those guys as they're trying to make a play, then you get the upside of what they can do offensively.
But that's where I think it's misleading if people just, and I know you didn't, but if people just watched last night. The Chiefs, Pat Mahomes had 7 turnovers on the year going into yesterday. Now, he had 5 yesterday. That's terrible. No one's denying that. But he had not been a turnover machine, despite yesterday. Turnovers are a part of passer rating. He's 2nd in the league in passer rating. Like, he's 1st in touchdowns, 1st in yards, 3rd in yards per attempt. Nobody can deal with a 5-turnover game. But that has been the outlier, the extreme outlier on the season. It was 37% of his turnovers for the year came yesterday. Like, that isn't something that we can say. It's not fair to say the Brett Favre part of it. Because that was a part of...
No, it isn't totally fair to say that, but it's also not fair to say on the front end that this guy is destined to be the MVP or destined to be this, and that's when I know you guys joke about needing to see more football. At the end of the day, we need to see who he becomes when people understand him, when he's put in critical situations.
Like the last 2 drives.
Like the last 2 drives. Who is this guy really?
And you can't always take chances. And people would tell you, and I know Mike Holmgren, I know Andy Reid, I know John Gruden, I know all those coaches that were dealing with Brett Favre. They'll tell you, Brett Favre could have been a lot better. So that's where we are. Like there were other quarterbacks that took chances, but they don't throw the interceptions. Interceptions are critical for your football team. So what type of chancer is he? Is he going to be a guy that I'm going to always take chances? Because as coach said, at the end of the game, there was no need to take that chance to be able to throw that ball in the coverage. Like in a 2-minute drive, you're trying to get 2 first downs and get to midfield. You don't see in a 2-minute drive people strike from 70 yards.
Agreed.
The theory is I need to get 2 first downs and I need to get to midfield. When I get to midfield, they're going to start being aggressive. And then that's when you can start to be more aggressive as a passer. So those are things that you only learn in the heat. And he was in the heat last night.
I thought the last 2 drives for Mahomes, even the last one where they had less than a minute, but they had less than a minute and a timeout, and they only needed a field goal. I thought the mistakes there were, as much as the interception, the first 2 plays that net you 12 yards, both over the middle, those are rookie plays. Like, in that spot, 6 yards is not worth either burning your last time out or the 15 seconds it's going to take to get to the line. I thought those, and I mentioned on the previous drive, taking a shot when there's 2 minutes left in the game, you have all your timeouts down 3, is unnecessary. But you mentioned you want to see him in the fire. I would argue down 4 or down 3 to the Rams in that spot where he drove them down the field for the leading touchdown with less than 3 minutes remaining, that's in the fire. Now the Rams responded.
How did they score? What was that series? What they do on that one?
That series?
Go over those plays.
Okay. It was Pat Mahomes sacked for -3 yards after a Kareem Hunt run. Pat Mahomes scrambled for 7. Then they had the 4th and 2 where he hit Kelsey for 18. Pat Mahomes ran up the middle for 2 yards. He threw it to Robinson for 14 yards, threw it to Harris for 3 yards, and then he threw it to Conley for 10 yards.
All those other people were playing. They were playing. Their team was playing. Like, you just gave Patty Mahomes credit. Like, they have a good football team to be able to support his overall ability. At the end, instead of taking the chances, throw the ball out of bounds and rely on their talent compared to relying on your talent. That's what the reason why I wanted you to do it, because I knew it was a lot of different people involved. And that's what he's got to be able to do at the end of those games.
And we were talking about Roethlisberger's big turnover games and Mahomes' big turnovers game. The difference is Roethlisberger won the game at the end.
All right, got to take a break. Much more First Things First right after this. Stay with us. Back here with Coach Mangini, we are going viral. Joel Embiid dropped 33 points, 17 rebounds in the Sixers' 119-114 win over the Suns last night. But his near-perfect night did have one blemish, with Embiid missing the mark on this wide-open windmill dunk.
And watch.
Ben Simmons couldn't help but laugh. Coach, you ever miss a dunk in the middle of a game like this? Just when things get really heated and you think you have it?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes just my ups aren't quite what
Your hops aren't what they used to be?
That Ben Simmons face is classic, man. Joel
Embiid is having some fun.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, watch them, Nick. They're undefeated at home. Only NBA team undefeated at home.
Oh, good note. Joel Embiid could make that same face back every time Ben Simmons just tries to shoot the ball.
Oh! Little shade.
What?
Yeah, little shade of Ben Simmons.
Out of nowhere.
That's out of somewhere.
Oh. I met with the family, though, Jenna, so we're going to stop throwing as many flames at Ben Simmons. They're watching the show. Way to flame him for the last time, Jenna.
Well, way to tell me.
I'm putting a bucket of water and put it out.
Really nice.
We did talk about it on the air yesterday, Jenna.
You did?
But you were,
Awesome.
You were here in body, but not in mind.
But you're correct, though.
So it was a Monday.
But you're correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I got it back. Back here with Coach Mangini. The Patriots had this past week off, currently sitting atop the AFC East at 7-3. That's nothing new, but that's for another day. They'll take on the Jets this week as they look to make their push to return to the Super Bowl for the third straight season. Tom Brady says everything they want to accomplish is right in front of them. Coach, can the Pats keep pace with the type of offenses you saw in the game last night?
Yeah, I think they can keep pace, and if it's not a function of them scoring the same amount, they'll probably do a better job in terms of situational football, overall discipline, taking away the most potent threats, the things that they traditionally
You mean they're
do.
not going to allow Tyreek Hill to line up on the nickelback in the slot and play him one-on-one all over the field? Coach, you sure Belichick and them going to take that away, Coach?
Well,
a free release off the line. Coach, you sure?
They might do that. It's even when you watched last night and the Rams decided to throw the ball when they could have eaten up the timeouts, those situational things, I don't imagine New England will have the same
Coach
issues
is talking about
with.
the Rams' last drive of the game after the Pat Mahomes interception.
Robert Woods makes a brilliant play. He's getting ready to go out of bounds because they run a bootleg. He gets on the ground, calls himself down, so they have to burn that time out there. But besides that, there was nothing. Every play they called for the guy to catch the ball and be running towards the sideline.
Yep.
So that's not the way to run. I've never seen a 4-minute drill where they're trying to run out the clock, and they selected those plays that they did.
And it was inside 2 minutes. It was 1 first down and the game's over. And what was most surprising to me about that is running the ball with Todd Gurley is not a give-up play. It's not like we have to throw the ball in order to get a first down. So to your point, the Patriots being smarter situationally, and what the Patriots will never do is commit the penalties the Chiefs often do. Not only the number of them, 13 penalties in the game, but the critical penalties. I texted you during the game. There was a spot where the Rams were in a 3rd and 30, and I half expected the Chiefs on the other side of the field to get some defensive contact penalty, automatic first down, because the Chiefs, while they have a lack of defensive talent, they also don't play the smartest of football on that side of the ball. They're attacking, they're ball hawking, they try to get to the quarterback, but they have some unforced errors. Now, I don't think the Patriots have the athletes that any of these best teams in the league do, particularly with a less than 100% Rob Gronkowski. Maybe they can scheme Tyreek Hill out of the game, but what's so hard about the Rams, the Chiefs, the Saints is even if you scheme their top guy out of the game, they have another A+ skill position guy to come hit you with.
But their Super Bowl teams are never the most talented team in the league. That's not what they do.
No, some teams collect talent. Like that's what they do. They collect talent, and New England builds a team, and that's what they're doing is they're trying to put the parts together. And as the season goes on, especially coming out of a bye week where they've had time as a staff to go back and say, okay, what have we done well? What have we done poorly? What do we need to correct? And then also be able to look at the remaining games on the schedule with a much bigger body of work and assess those things. To me, this is where they gain on other teams in the league during periods like this. And from a situational awareness and a clock management perspective, they're not going to give the other team extra chances. They're going to work the clock as much as possible. They're going to minimize the game or shorten the game when they feel like they're in a bad position.
And I can guarantee in a championship situation, playoffs, winner take all, move on and advance, but they're going to carry the ball more than 20 times. And if they don't carry the ball more than 20 times, There's going to be an exact reason. They're going to throw the ball sideways and short 30 times. So you're going to see that they were trying to control the clock, that they had a theme from the time they stepped on the field, and then they went to a change of pace, something. But you're going to know at the end of the game what they were trying to do, and that's try to keep those quarterbacks off the field, try to keep all those weapons off the field. That's why it's not all about speed. Another thing the Patriots aren't going to do as far as situational football, Tyreek Hill at the end of those games. You think he was making some good plays by trying to return those kicks?
No.
By continuing to go back inside the 5-yard? No, because
wasting clock.
He's taken his own individualness over the team. It's a basic philosophy. You put your heels at the 10-yard line. Stay right there. If the ball goes over your head, you do not move. You can't take your wanting to be an individual because, oh, I got speed, because I got talent. You got to be able to play the game the right way. And New England is going to do those types of things. You score a touchdown late. You point the guy. You give the guy the peace sign as you go into the end zone. 15-yard penalty. Wait a second. It didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt him, but it's something you shouldn't do in a big game like this. You can't give away 15 yards. In championship, winner take all those things become very, very important. So now I can't expect, when we get to the playoffs, that's what they're going to do. No, I think that they're going to do the same things they've been doing during the regular season.
I wasn't going to say the peace sign didn't hurt him because he didn't know it wasn't going to hurt him. He didn't know they were going to have a great kickoff and then a penalty on the Rams on the kickoff. What I was going to say on that is, though, the league should let the Chiefs know or show some consistency. If he's done that on every long touchdown of his entire career, whether a guy's been close to him or not, he's never been flagged. So I don't think that
if the guy's close to you, you're going to get flagged.
Well,
it is taunting.
I'm just saying I've seen him do it a half dozen times with the guy right there waving the deuces at him, and he's never been flagged.
I mean, it's definitely the league's fault. It's definitely the league's fault.
I'm not saying it's the league's fault,
that they didn't correct him on
dude jumped behind the camera last week, too.
That's the league's fault.
No, I'm not saying that's the league's fault. All I'm saying is Michael Thomas, when he grabbed the phone, knew he was getting 15 yards and decided it was worth it. I don't think Tyreek Hill thought he was getting flagged for that. When he jumped behind the camera, he knew he was getting 15.
When you're leading the league, this is what, when they sit down today, there's certain things. The reason why Tom Brady did go through, because that's the same thing I would do. We go through every game, and we don't look to see our splash plays. We look to see where we're bad, so where we can fortify ourselves. And if Kansas City, if they hadn't lost that game last night, I guarantee you they wouldn't be looking saying, hey, you know something, that play right there. We are creatures of habit. That was a huge, huge game. Last week's game was a huge game. When you win, the games get bigger and bigger. So what do the players do? Like, who's going to tell them? Like, when does it get bigger than them that they start?
Andy, when does Andy, isn't that on the code?
Andy told him last week, and he told him again this week.
Correct.
Got to take a break. Coach, see you a little bit later in the show. Coming up. How worried should the Warriors be about their 3-game skid next up?
Get out of here.
We'll get to the Warriors in a second, but first, a couple of plays from last night. Jared Goff with a perfect pass to Gerald Everett, who shows off the fancy footwork. That's the game-winning touchdown.
Man, great play call by Sean McVeigh. Isolating the tight end out on one of my favorite guys in pass coverage.
Daniel Sorensen, back from injury.
And Goff flights this ball just perfect right over his outside shoulder. Clutch, way to finish out the game, Jared Goff. What's going on in California with the wildfires? You know, his dad is a firefighter.
Yeah.
More from this game, Samson Ebukam with the interception, and he will not be denied from finding the end zone.
This is a game of a career for this guy.
Yes.
Pick six, recovered fumble interception, hit Mahomes' arm on the biggest play of the game when the Chiefs were down 3 driving.
Forcing him inside, yep.
And then on the next interception, forced him inside, led to another pick. He was spectacular in this football game.
That's what the Rams need. If you look at outside, can they get some playmakers? His playmaking ability was the difference in the game.
Nobody saw that part of the game coming.
Finally, little Duke basketball. Zion Williamson with the steal, and watch the windmill dunk.
This was on in the afternoon. I feel like Joel Embiid was watching this early in the day.
Yeah, it came on at 4:30.
And said to his teammates, I'm going to do that if I get a chance.
Yep.
He got rimmed on it. This, Zion. A quiet game for Zion. 13 points, a little foul trouble, and they were blowing the opponent out. Quietest college game yet for him. Still got that in there.
Man, he's a ridiculous talent. Get used to this. Get used to seeing him dunk on some people for at least this year. Next year, NBA.
Yeah.
On to the Warriors, who have lost 3 games in a row and 4 of their last 5. What do all 5 have in common? No Steph Curry. He's still hurt. As is the team, apparently, after the Durant-Draymond tiff last Monday. Steve Kerr says his team got a much-needed dose of reality.
And I've had a dream run for 4.5 years. We've had such a charmed existence in the last 4 seasons. So, yeah, of course, this is the toughest stretch we've been in. This is the real NBA. We haven't been in the real NBA in the last few years. We've been in this dream, and so now we're faced with real adversity, and we gotta get out of it ourselves.
Nick, I would imagine you had an interesting reaction to Kerr's comments.
Listen, I don't know so much of it's the real NBA as it is the NBA for the Warriors without Stephen Curry. We can go back to last year. In the last 2 years with Steph, they're 51-12. Without him, they're 19-18. 19-18 on a team that has had Kevin Durant, has had Klay Thompson. I understand this year Draymond's missed some of these games as well with injury and suspension, but they've had Draymond Green. For some reason, and it's one that I imagine has to do with the fact that the Warriors' entire identity is built around the gravity Steph has on the defense and the selflessness that Steph plays with. They play beneath their talent level without him, more so than any team that I would expect with that other superstar level of talent, because that's not what they look like without Durant. Without Durant, they're not as good as they are with him. But without Durant, they still win 2 out of every 3 games. They're still one of the best teams in basketball. And so, yeah, it is the real NBA. And they're going to play in the real NBA like they did last year for 31 games without Steph Curry.
Yeah, we had a conversation when we started the season, the Warriors, how would their season go? I said I thought they would struggle before they got Boogie Cousins, before they get him, because I think that in trying to repeat, they're going to face what I knew were unseen obstacles out there, that being either injuries. I didn't think it would be the turmoil inside, but the attrition with this team, the number of playoff games, somebody had to get hurt. They've been remarkably healthy in this string, so I thought that they would struggle. I thought they struggled to be able to win 65 games like that. I didn't think that they would be as special as they've been, and that's what we're going to see. Steph is a special basketball player, and I'm glad. They go to their job. Their job's hard, just like everyone else. It's better for the NBA. It's not good for the NBA that they continue to dominate. But there's no team in the NBA, there's no owner would say, you know something, I'll trade my situation for your situation. The Warriors have the best situation, and everyone is envious of that, and it will still be the same result at the end of the season, Jenna.
And going into the year, I did think this team could, assuming health, and that they could win 70-plus games. And they were 10-1 going into the game Steph Curry got hurt. They lost that game, and they've now lost 4 of 6 since then. He's the one guy they can't play without. The one guy. Now, they wouldn't be a 70-plus win team if they lose any of the other guys for a substantial amount of time, but they wouldn't be below 500. They wouldn't be a team that is struggling to score the way they are. Steph is the most important guy on the team. I do not care who the best guy on the team is anymore, because it really only matters within the confines of your team who has the biggest impact on winning, and it's Steph by a mile.
Knowing what kind of impact Steph Curry has on the team, does that alter the course of maybe what Kevin Durant does, and now how you feel about what Kevin Durant does? Maybe it's not as crucial that the Warriors keep him, knowing who is the most vital part of the team?
I'm not going to get into who's the most vital and everything. I don't think that has anything to do with Kevin Durant and what he's going to do. Kevin Durant was never commissioned to be in Golden State for the rest of his career. Like, he was only going to come there for a certain period of time. What is that period of time? 3, 4, 5 years? I never thought, people in the basketball world never thought that he would retire there. As far as him, Steph, being that much better or more important, I don't think it's really that important for me to try to determine that. They are not. The reason why they're special is because everything that they have. And if they lose any piece of it, Draymond's been nicked up. Draymond's playing the worst basketball. So now you have one of their stars hurting, and Draymond's not playing well. So if that was Steph, if that was Klay, if it was KD, they would still be suffering.
In my response to your question, Jenna, I think, while I don't think it will have an effect on Kevin Durant's decision, I do think that if and when, and it's more when than if, Kevin Durant leaves, the Warriors, with this team minus Durant, still a championship contender. Like, I do not think the Warriors, who were a contender before Durant got there, if they lose him, all of a sudden go to that next tier of teams. They just join, as Kurt's talking about, then they will once again be in the real NBA, where there's a half dozen teams that have a real shot at a championship. They'll be one of them, as opposed to minus 250 favorites against the entire rest of the league combined.
And a lot of people think that would make the NBA better. Just a little bit
more compelling.
Coming up, are the Rams looking like the class of the NFL after their monster win last night? Next on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, we are going viral. Jimmy Butler dropped 16 points against the Suns last night to help keep the Sixers in a perfect 9-0 record at home. And after the game, Butler got some love from a Philly legend, sharing this embrace with the answer, Allen Iverson. And a nice, warm, long embrace, too.
That was really cool to see. I also feel like my man Cris Carter should have been airdropped in the middle, because these are two people you shared an embrace with on Friday.
Those two are my guys. Iverson, he spent a lot of time in Philadelphia.
Oh, look at Happy making the show.
Let's do that. I mean, that's how we do. The Happies, we need season tickets. We contacted the 76ers. We need season tickets. Senior likes them towards half court. Me and Junior, we don't mind being. They're my business partners. It's not that important.
Not Happy.
Yeah.
It's not Gilmore.
How about this? Tell me who.
Shout out to my guy.
Iverson. I like seeing Iverson back fully in the fold with Philly after a little timeout. I like that.
Yeah, I was like to hear you got that Reebok money.
Yeah.
Looks to hear it, too. Time for stories to start your morning. Patrick Mahomes continued his MVP push, threw for 6 TDs and almost 500 yards, also had 5 turnovers. Nick, what'd you make of Mahomes' night?
I thought he played an A- game until the very, very end. Those last 2 drives, particularly the second to last drive, when after the Rams scored quick, you got all 3 timeouts, 2 minutes left, only down a field goal, he made a big mistake. Aaron Donald is a great player. Great players make great plays. I'm not going to kill him for those, especially because those were the first 2 lost fumbles of his career. But in the final couple minutes, he had some of his worst moments, and that's one of the biggest reasons the Chiefs didn't win the game.
Jenna, you can't turn the football over. You can't fumble the ball. You can't make excuses to great players. Great players are going to make great plays, but you still got to protect the football. It's overall responsibility, and just trying too much at the end of the game. Be methodical. 1 first down, 2 first down, get the midfield, then try to take a big shot. I thought at the end, I'm not giving him a grade. Of course, Nick's always there trying to grade people, but this would be the first time in the history someone's turned the ball over 5 times and they would get an A on their paper.
I said A- before. That was when he had 3 turnovers. I said before the final 2 minutes.
Hey, Pat's had the week off.
B+.
Currently sitting atop the AFC East with a 7-3 record. They take on the Jets next as they look to make their push to return to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight season. What do you think, Nick, after what you saw last night? Can the Patriots keep pace with that high-powered offense?
If Gronk is healthy, and if Sony Michel is healthy, and if the games are in New England, yes. If any one of those things is not the case, then I do not believe they can. The neutral site games notwithstanding. Like, I think they need all of those 3 components to be yes in order for this to be yes.
Jen, I've been live long enough to see this. I remember the greatest show on turf. Oh, they're going to embarrass New England. New England don't have the athletes, the overall speed. Oh, okay. All right, you give Bill Belichick a bye week, and you see what he does to people. New England will not be embarrassed. They've lost 3 times by double digits on the road. By the end of the season, if they were to face a team like this, they will be ready.
All right, moving on to LeBron James, riding high off that tremendous win over Miami Sunday, where he dropped 51 en route to a Laker win. So after beating his former team, he now heads to Cleveland to try to beat his other former team on Wednesday night. In an article that came out yesterday, LeBron is quoted as saying he knew as soon as the Cavaliers traded Kyrie Irving in the summer of 2017, that was the beginning of the end for everything. Nick, what was your reaction to this?
That quote wasn't, to me, that shocking. What was very interesting in that was the detail that right before Kyrie got traded, Ty Lue went to where LeBron was, signing autographs in Santa Monica, California, told LeBron the news. LeBron got on the phone with Kobe Altman, made the case not to trade Kyrie, and Kobe Altman committed to him, we won't trade Kyrie, and within 15 minutes, Kyrie was traded. And LeBron says on the record, a direct quote, not sources close, on the record, direct quote, that's when I knew Kobe wasn't in charge. That's when I knew Dan Gilbert was running things, and that's when he knew he was leaving. That's when he knew that he gave Dan Gilbert 1 ounce of trust. The one time when he came back that he couldn't leave, the one summer where he was locked up because he had signed a 2-year deal one time after the championship, was the summer that Dan Gilbert didn't bring back his GM and traded away the second-best player. Not only made that trade, because Kyrie wanted to be traded, but didn't make the trade that was best for them right then. It made the trade where the biggest asset was a player LeBron would never play with, the Nets pick that turned into Colin Sexton. So Dan Gilbert wanted to reportedly take control back of his team. See, that's exactly what he got. And it's one of the big reasons the Cavs are the worst team in basketball again.
Well, Kevin Love being hurt, also not being available, that makes them the reason why they're not the worst talented team. Right now they have the worst record, and Kevin Love being absent, LeBron being gone, we didn't expect them to be good. The only thing that people should really know, too, because I don't think LeBron was leaving because of the trade. It was also what was packaged in the trade. And they got Isaiah Thomas and some other stuff. So I think that if LeBron, because it was on the board for him to stay and finish his career in Cleveland, but with the lack of valuable assets returned, I think that, and as it played out with him still being hurt, and then them having to have another trade after that, those were the things that led to him leaving. And to me, he had no other choice. You can't stay with Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert, even though he is a billionaire, he does not know how to operate a basketball team. So it's been a trickle-down effect, and it goes back to the last general manager. When they didn't extend him and let him go, ever since then, it's been downhill for the Cavs.
David Griffin had a deal in place for Paul George that would have happened if David Griffin got extended. He didn't. It led to all of this and leads to LeBron being a Laker.
All right, let's get back to last night's epic football game.
Don't sound so sad, man. He's with the Lakers. It's good stuff.
Jared Goff was lights out, throwing for 4 touchdowns, running in a 5th, and the Rams' 54-51 win over the Chiefs. L.A. improves to 10-1, the best record in the NFC. Here's head coach Sean McVeigh on the win.
It was a whirlwind. I feel like, I might need a couple beverages to relax tonight, but it was great. I mean, this is what you love so much about this game, and really what's the best part about it is that locker room, sharing that with the people that you love, the players, the coaches, this organization. But it was a great matchup, but it was just one game, and there's a lot of football left. We got to do a great job making sure that we respond, we get ourselves healthy as possible, and we're refreshed and ready to go when we play the Lions coming back from the bye.
When you got a coach like that, you want to go out there and give him everything you got week in and week out. You want to win for that guy. So, he take care of us. He put us in the best positions, these coaches. And our job is just go out there, fly around, and execute it. And that's what we've been doing, So with the coaches we got, the head guy with McVeigh, with the players we have, sky's the limit. But you got to keep getting better. We got to keep staying hungry and not get comfortable.
They were so productive on both sides of the ball, this Rams team. What impressed you most about them last night?
I like the way they attacked Kansas City. You could tell from the beginning they were going to attack their secondary. And even though Gurley got nicked up earlier in the game, I thought Sean McVeigh, his overall attitude was going to be use Gurley as a decoy, play action pass, because the pass protection was far more secure. But him be able to get the ball, what I would call, to the others. And the other guys from a game plan, Tyler Higbee, him and Gerald Everett, they had a season high in snaps played, targets, receptions, and yards. They typically have been the most in the NFL, what we call 11 personnel, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 3 wide receivers. But now with Cooper Kupp being out for a couple weeks, you can see that they've made the adjustments. That last drive, when Scandrix drops the interception, you can see before that, they go to Higbee to get the first down on the sideline. Then they go to Everett to the right sideline. Then they come back to Everett when they change the coverage to man-to-man. They isolate him on what I consider a very, very weak defender. So how they spread the ball around, how McVeigh called the plays, and how he has adapted to Cooper Kupp being out of the lineup. This offense is still just as explosive. Robert Woods is playing more of the slot receiver, and they spread the ball around. They are one of the most dangerous attacks that I've seen, not just because of the talent, but because Todd Gurley can run. They got a very good offensive line, and Sean McVeigh is very, very aggressive.
And I want to give Jared Goff enormous credit on that final drive, because he wasn't great in the second half. All of a sudden, the Rams were going 3 and out. All of a sudden, he had turned the ball over. He was missing some open passes, and they were in a spot where they used their last timeout with 5 minutes left in the football game. So after Scandrick drops that pick, they're facing a 3rd and 9 that it's obviously 4-down territory, but if they don't get a first down on that drive, the Chiefs are 1 first down away from being able to take knees. And he makes a great pass along the sideline to convert the 3rd and 9, and then and
they come right back and attack Scandrick again. He almost throws an interception, but staying true to what you're going to do. We have a better matchup against that guy. Let's not get scared. Let's not get timid. We're going to go back and attack him again. The next play, they came right back at him and beat him on the one-on-one matchup.
And then the touchdown to Everett, like that is going into the season, Everett's your 5th option, your 6th option, and in that spot, they had plenty of time. Even though they didn't have timeouts, they were 2 minutes left, down 4. They could have been more methodical about it. I'm sure some Rams fans, when they scored, were hoping he stepped out of bounds because they were worried about giving the ball back to Kansas City. And to make that throw, which was the best throw I thought he made all night, over the top. I know Sorensen is not the athlete to be covering him, but that had to be a great throw, right along the sideline. And so Goff, after they scored 54 points, you think the quarterback must have played great, and he did play very well. But he was coming off some rough series for him, including a series where he had a fumble touchdown, or I don't know if it was scored a fumble or an interception touchdown, but it led to a defensive score, and he rallied. He was excellent late to his 3rd, 4th, 5th options.
You had the feeling last night that they could have plugged anyone in and they would have been successful with how well the offense was rolling.
I mean, they are these new offenses. The way they get so many players involved, it's hard to isolate and be able to take away the featured. But Sean McVeigh, he's got a good feel in how they match up their running with their play action. It keeps the defense very confused. As Bart Scott said, it's hard to keep good eye discipline because they make everything look the same way. I'm not going to say, because football's a lot harder. I know both teams scored more than 50 points. Anybody just can't do it. Sean McVeigh is putting guys in where they have route running ability, catching ability. Everett, he's a tight end. I can guarantee you they have not thrown a deep pass to a tight end outside the numbers all season. So being able to identify what that team can't do, what I can do, and be able to call it up in real time and execute, it's always special to see.
And in the big picture scheme, when we've talked so much about New Orleans and how important it is for New Orleans to have home field, have the #1 seed, if the Rams had lost yesterday, they would be 2.5 back of New Orleans. 2 games, or 1.5 back, I should say, because they don't have the tiebreaker with New Orleans. Now they're 10-1. New Orleans is 9-1. New Orleans got 4 games left against teams 500 or better. The Rams only have 1 game left against teams 500 or better. That game could go a long way to making sure New Orleans does have to go on the road if this matchup happens in the NFC Championship game. An enormous win for Los Angeles.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, much more on this. We'll look at the Chiefs side of this next on First Things First.
Yeah, probably not a day that goes by where I don't walk around this building and think of Bo Schembechler, and there's definitely times that when I'm talking that I know that that's coming from something that Bo said. But Michigan Ohio State, it's always has been a big game, is a big game, always will be a big game.
The game, right? Yeah.
The game.
That was a clip of our own Dave Wanstead's interview with Jim Harbaugh. You can catch the rest of that when #4 Michigan and 10th-ranked Ohio State battle for a spot in the Big Ten Championship. Coverage begins Saturday at 11 Eastern on Fox, or watch anywhere on the Fox Sports app.
See, you know this better than anybody. Michigan's had a great year up to this point. Ohio State's been disappointed with the year up to this point. If Ohio State wins, it totally flips everything and erases everything I just said.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's been 2,500 days since Michigan beat Ohio State. We beat them 6 times in a row. This will be #7. That'd be 2,555. I think, Nick. 7. That'd be 7 years, something like that.
Did you carry the 1? Back here with Coach Mangini, we are going viral. Jared Goff shredded the Chiefs' defense for over 400 yards, 5 total touchdowns. I guess you could say he was getting under Andy Reid's skin. Big Red screaming at Goff to get back in the huddle. Get back in that huddle. Coach, you ever scream at an opposing quarterback?
To get back in the huddle like that?
Well, anything really.
Why is he over in the sideline anyway?
So that was the play. They called pass interference on the Chiefs.
I totally agree with Andy. Get back in the huddle.
Andy Reid, that was a huge challenge. It was they called pass interference on the Chiefs. It was a tip pass, so Reid challenged. They ended up forcing the Rams into a field goal.
Yeah, and he was coming over trying to assist the referees to try to tell them that the ball wasn't tipped. Coach got on and that's not typical of Andy Reid.
No, it
but
isn't.
I like that exchange. A little better than Malcolm Jenkins, the exchange he had with Sean Payton.
Oh,
yeah.
So we had a little player-coach interaction this week. Nice.
Good stuff. All right, let's stick with last night's offensive explosion. 1,001 yards, 105 points, 14 touchdowns as the Rams outlasted the Chiefs 54-51. Those 14 touchdowns, that's more than the Bills have scored all season. Coach, what did last night's record-breaking night tell you about the state of the NFL, where we're at right now?
Well, it lends itself to the fact that all the rule changes are making it harder and harder on defenses. And whether it's the fact that you can't be as physical at the line of scrimmage with guys, it's the way that you have to tackle, it's the way that you have to gently put the quarterback down. There's so many different things that defenders have to do at the point of contact and think about at the point of contact, which makes it that much harder just to execute the core stuff that you're trying to get done.
And we don't have to go to some yesteryear to look at how the game has changed. From 2002 to 2017, so the 15 years preceding this year, the average passer rating in the NFL was 84. This year it's 95. The average completion percentage was 61. This year it's 65. Yards per attempt were 7. Now it's 7.5. Like it's not just that we're seeing the most points through 10 weeks ever, the most touchdowns, the most passing touchdowns. Every week we're setting the new all-time mark. It's that if you just compare this specific season to what had been the era we were in, everything is juiced by 10 to 20% in the passing game. You're not seeing it in the rushing stats. You're not seeing it in the turnover stats. You're seeing it in one specific area, the passing stats. And it was on display last night where first game in NFL history, both teams scored 50. Going into last night's game, teams that scored 50 were 216-0. Now they're 217-1 because both teams did it. Like there is no precedent for this in modern or historic NFL history.
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy watching that?
Yeah, I enjoy watching football, and I believe it doesn't have to be a certain way for it to be aesthetically to be pleasing to my eye. I like to see a little more defense, but it's not going to dictate to me if it's a good football game. You can have an offensive game that is well played. What they did last night was not Big 12 defense.
Right.
It was a couple things. The rules have changed, and it does help the offense. And the inability to be able to put pain on the quarterback, like any big hit now in football, it's automatic a personal foul. No matter what. If you see a guy get hit and it's a good hit, typically there's going to be some laundry on the field afterwards. But also, we have to give credit to a couple other things that I believe are just as important as the rules. Number one, I believe we have the best throwers top to bottom that we've ever had. The quality of quarterbacks that we have, which I would consider top flight quarterback, is at an all-time high. And I think the other change is NFL coaches have gotten beyond their stubbornness and their kind of depending on the way the game has been played, and they've reached back in the college football and high school football, and they've added a few elements to be able to stress out the defense. Motions, as far as we're going to throw the ball sideways more, wide receiver screens, and how we can beat blitzes compared to how they used to do it before. You used to try to block it up and protection, throw the ball down the field. No, you go ahead and blitz us. We're going to throw that thing to someone else in the flat very quick, and they're going to be able to advance the ball. So I think those things are leading to the game that we saw last night. But every game we saw leading up to last night, it would let us to be, if we get two good quarterbacks, we could see what we saw last night. So, no, I'm not surprised by the way what the product looked like last night.
And one of the hard things to deal with right now is you had the Wildcat phase when that was introduced, and now you've got quarterbacks that are able to do these run-pass options, but they are legitimate throwers too. So you've got that added threat where if you don't have the additional guy in the box, you've got a real problem in the running game because the quarterback is a viable runner. And then if you do put him in the box, now it opens up so many things in the passing game. But what typically happens is there's an influx of ideas, and then the league catches up with it, and typically it goes back down, and we cycle around, and then seeing that over time, and I think we'll cycle back, except the rule changes do lend itself to more.
And a couple reasons why the Wildcat didn't continue to grow, even though for a period of time people thought it was going to change football. The number one reason why it wasn't going to change football, because they couldn't change the rules. Because once a quarterback decided that he was going to either fake it to a running back, he became a runner. So he forfeited all the luxuries of being a quarterback. So we knew, no, we're not going to allow our quarterback to get hit like that. So that's not going to be able to change the game. So now the things that we're seeing, these are things, if you have a good quarterback who can release the football very quick, read defenses, and you have to have a tight end. You have to have guys that can run speed sweeps, smaller guys in space. They're being utilized more now. So now these things are more apt to stick and continuing to see people growing. Also from the Wildcat, no one developed a very, what I call a comprehensive passing game off of that Wildcat. So once you took away the quarterback and his ability to be able to flip it, now how are they going to attack from a passing standpoint? That never developed, so we saw it go away.
But the other reason that I thought last night's game was so fun to watch was, to Chris's point, it was a Big 12 score, but some of the biggest plays in this game were defensively. There were 3 defensive scores. There were 7 turnovers in the game. Some of the best plays of the night were plays forced by the defense. One of the reasons the score was so high was because of those 3 defensive scores. And so it wasn't just you score, I score, you score, I score. There were some great defensive plays. The other part, though, that is leading to where we are today is, while the Wildcat couldn't catch on, I, as a fan, for a long time wondered, why, for certain college teams, can the option be so successful and no pro team will ever run it at all? And now we're seeing, again, you're never going to have like the old Oklahoma team running a triple option.
God forbid.
Right. You're not going to, but you do have, you saw last night, the Chiefs in spots run that option, run option stuff. We see the Saints with Taysom Hill run the option stuff. So in little bits, they are pulling things from the lower levels of football that, if you have the right athletes, can work.
Yeah, well, the option game in college football, you have a limited time in college football with the athletes to prepare. In pro football, you have a lot more time. The option in college football is such a rarity. You're typically playing all these spread out teams, and that's how you're built. So now when you go to play option football, it's such a unique thing. It's foreign. The offense is so much better at doing what they do than the defenses are to adjusting that. Now, in pro football, too, when you're getting hit by those guys, there's only so many times you're going to get hit by a pro football player before you end up on the sideline or in the training room.
Is this where we are for the next couple of years, or do you see this changing?
I think we should just enjoy football the way it is. I talked to Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent, and them, and I told them that the game was getting easier. Last year they changed not only some of the other rules as far as passing, but they changed it what a reception was. You didn't have to survive the ground. So they've made it easier to catch the football. Now you can't put your weight on the quarterback. They're making it easier for the quarterback. So if they keep making the game easier, you should see bigger numbers from an offensive standpoint. And we're in the golden era of throwing the football, though.
Yeah.
Guys can throw the ball, and that has to be baked into the equation. It's not a whole bunch of college. Top to bottom, if you look at our top 25 guys in the NFL, they can throw the ball better than any 25 guys in the other 99-year history, and I'm willing for people to challenge me to that. You give me an era where you got 25 guys that can throw it, and I think this era is the best.
14 touchdowns, 56 first downs, 105 points, and 1,001 yards on offense last night. That was quite a game. Coach, thanks. Appreciate having you here. Coming up, like I said, 101 points, but the best player last night might have been on defense. That's next on First Things First. The Las Vegas Invitational tips off Thanksgiving Day on FS1. Conference powerhouses collide. North Carolina battling Texas. UCLA takes on Michigan State. The Las Vegas Invitational on FS1 on the Fox Sports app.
North Carolina's got one of the best freshmen in the country. We haven't talked about him enough. Texas has one of the best looking coaches in the country. They need to be better this year than they were last year.
We'll get to Patty Mahomes in a second, but first, Jared Goff. Perfect pass to Gerald Everett, showing off the fancy footwork for the game-winning touchdown.
You know how I knew the Chiefs' defense could be in real trouble this year, C?
Why?
When before the year, the local writers were saying they're really going to miss Daniel Sorensen until he returns. That's the guy getting dusted right there. That's the guy you were killing all last year. They needed him, I was told. That's the level of defense they got right now.
Yeah, I knew there'd be opportunities. If he was going to be in the game, I knew there'd be opportunities to throw the ball.
Same game, Samson Ebukam with the interception will not be denied, gets into the end zone.
Ebukam played an amazing game. Made a couple other plays outside of this one, but this right here, to be able to not only bat the ball off the lineman, but to be able to have the awareness to be able to catch it and finish the play. Unbelievable football play right here.
He recovered 2 turnovers, scored 2 touchdowns, and you could argue caused 2 more turnovers in the football game.
Yes.
He was spectacular.
All right, finally, Duke basketball. Who else? Zion Williamson with the steal and a windmill dunk.
This guy.
This guy.
I really do believe, C, because this game was a matinee.
That guy.
That the Sixers saw this highlight, and Embiid told his teammates, I'm going to do this in the game. And that's what led to him getting stuffed at the rim when he tried to do this exact dunk. He can't do what Zion can do.
Man, Zion is special now. I mean, he's outside of the restricted area with the windmill off the vertical. 280 pounds, Jenna, 46-inch vertical. It's unheard of.
Nonchalant, too.
That's a long way to get that booty he got up.
You ain't lying.
You want to play time for drawing a blank?
Yeah.
All right, also called just drawing a blank. The Chiefs and Rams squared off last night in a showcase of 2 high-powered offenses. 2 teams combined for 105 points, over 1,000 yards. C, the most impressive individual performance last night was blank.
Jenna, we know with all the bad news with the wildfires in Los Angeles going around, man, they were looking for a little reprieve. And where'd they get it? The son of a fireman. Jared Goff, best football player on the best game, because he came through when he needed to. 1 turnover in a game like this, you got to give Jared Goff a lot of credit, operating this offense under a lot of stress because he knew his defense wasn't going to be able to hold up in the end. Jared Goff was special.
Jared Goff was excellent. You're tugging on my heartstrings there. I also the son of a fireman, but I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, 10 catches, a career-high 215 yards, 2 touchdowns in the 2 ways he's caught touchdowns throughout the year. One, a very long pass, and the other one, he's caught a handful of touchdowns backing into the end zone like this, where he just puts his back to the back goal line or to the end line and
this is what I need him to do to be a top-flight guy. Keep running, because once he turns his shoulders, the DB know the ball's coming. That's why he almost knocked that ball out of there. So just keep your shoulders toward the goal line. Patty Mahomes, put a little more air on it. He underthrowing the little speedster.
All right, all eyes on the offense last night, but the 2 defenses quietly combined for 8 sacks and 7 turnovers. That resulted in 35 points. Cris Carter, the most impressive individual defensive performance last night was blank.
Come on, F-U-Cam, Ebukam. That's who, absolutely. Samuel.
I didn't know what was
F-U-Cam, Samuel.
Okay.
Samson. Man, he was really special in this game. They've been looking for an outside rush. They've been looking for a guy that can make some splash plays. That's why they traded Jacksonville, that big pick to be able to get Wilder on the outside. But Ebukam made the plays last night. It'd be interesting to see him, how much he develops, because he's getting individual blocked every game. He should be able to make big plays for them.
I mean, they traded away those draft picks to get Dante Fowler, and then Ebukam made those plays. I knew that's what you were going to say, so I'm going to go with the second best.
You knew that's
No, because that's the right answer. But I want to give some shine to Aaron Donald, who got the party started defensively.
Sure.
Forced the 2 fumbles, one of which led to Ebukam's first touchdown. He now leads the NFL with 14.5 sacks. He looks like he's going to become a repeat defensive player of the year, much like J.J. Watt.
And, hey, Andy Reid, won't you slide your line to the left to be able to help Cameron Everett out so he's not solo blocking the whole time? Move the center to
Cam Irving, yep.
Yeah, him too.
Last night's thriller.
Have him block the other dude, Cam Sturr, and the center, the triple team to do it.
Last night's thriller showcased the workings of 20-year head coach Andy Reid and defending coach of the year Sean McVeigh, both among the front runners for the award of the year. CC, the best NFL coach this season has been blank.
The one that Malcolm Jenkins, he said he was number 1. NFL, which coach is number 1? Malcolm Jenkins told him, hey, Sean Payton, he's number 1. Yeah, Sean Payton lost opening week Won every game since then. What he's doing, Drew Brees, that offense. Sean Payton is the NFL Coach of the Year.
I'm going to go with Sean McVeigh. I think what he's doing with Jared Goff, what he's doing with the team that lost Cooper Kupp yesterday. Gurley got dinged. Cooks gets dinged. Doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but he's doing it with replacement guys. I think McVay is getting the absolute most out of his quarterback. I think Sean McVay's been the best coach.
What about Sean Payton in the head-to-head? What he did to him in the head-to-head? What about Ingram being suspended for 4 games?
Both strong cases on both sides.
Chiefs have been the dominant team in the AFC all season, but the Rams showed us all last night that they can be beat. Nick, the team with the best chance to challenge the Chiefs in the AFC is blank.
A team that the Chiefs beat this year, but historically has had the Chiefs number, and a team that I think can match points with them. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have shown a resiliency to where they could end up with the 1 seed in the AFC right now. They're only a half game back Kansas City. I love their coach. Their quarterback's excellent. We know how good Antonio Brown is, especially against this Chiefs secondary. I say Pittsburgh.
I'm going with the Steelers. I like to be able to come back from the big deficit in Jacksonville. I believe it will pay dividends. And when you look at how tight it is between New England, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City, I like Pittsburgh. I like what they're doing, and I like the fact that this team is growing together. Nick, the stat you had yesterday was amazing. Pittsburgh in the last 17 road games.
16 road games, 14-1-1. Unbelievable.
That's amazing. Pittsburgh. So because they can go to Kansas City and win.
And you'd win already, so I'm going to keep reading. Last night's offensive explosion helped pad the stats of plenty of MVP hopefuls, with Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes both showcasing why they deserve to take home the hardware. C, the NFL MVP through Week 11 has been blank.
It's pretty easy, Jenna. Drew Brees. He's been amazing. Last year, he broke the completion percentage record. This year, on pace. He had a bad game this week. He's only 74% completion. Made his overall completion go down.
Crazy.
And he's had 1 turnover. Patty Mahomes, he's had turnover in 6 out of the last 7 games. So Drew Brees, all year long, the most consistent quarterback.
Drew Brees has fewer turnovers, higher completion percentage. Pat Mahomes got him in everything else. I'm going to go Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes leading the NFL in total in passing yards, leading the NFL in touchdowns by a wide margin, on pace for 50+ with 37 already. Second in the NFL in passer rating and third in yards per attempt. And he's not doing it in 8 perfect condition home games a year. I believe the answer is Patrick Mahomes. I also think if it's close at all, the voters will give it to Drew Brees because he's never won one and he has had an amazing career.
Jenna, in the history of this great award, the MVP, we know it's dominated by the quarterbacks, but only one quarterback has had a 5-turnover game. That was Boomer Esiason in my second year in the NFL in '88. What were you doing in '88, Nick?
What? I was 4 years old.
Oh, 4 years old. Okay, so I was talking about football, actually, again.
You were doing some other things, too.
I was actually talking about football. I was in the NFL locker room. Boomer Esiason, '88, only quarterback with 5 turnovers.
That's how you remembered that stat, because you were talking about football in '88?
Well, because it happens to be the fact. What year did it happen? In 1988.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.